Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hansen, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all on this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure in life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Well, Don't Die Rusty Nation, this is a podcast that's number 2 because Rick is a technological idiot at times and doesn't know how to do things. But I'm lucky because I get to have another conversation with John and Jules Barklow. And this is how bad my technological skills are. And then we'll get to you guys, of course, but you grew up in Oregon.
Correct.
And we all grew up with the computers with the green screens, and I didn't even get through Oregon Trail. I died on the way all the time. I just was a technological wizard. But now I know John, so I could probably get there because of just knowing how to stay alive. But I know I'm lucky because, you know, I thought about this. I'm happy that I screwed up in a way because after supper last night, I learned a lot more about you, and I have a lot more stuff I would like to add because I have to thank you because the conversations we've had have been amazing and thoughtful, and they make me happy. And I'll introduce you. I should have done this before, but I'm here with John Barklow. He is the Sick-a-do-all at the moment. And I'm lucky because I can call him friend now. Maybe until I leave and go out the door. And Jules, that's his wonderful wife. And I wanted to know more about John Barklow and Jules Barklow, and that's what Don't Die Rusty's about. Is about chasing dreams and living your best life and being a better person. And I get the lucky thing about me is I get to talk to these people that make me a better person. So what I would like to start out with is we had some stories. Where you guys met in the Philippines. I'm going to skip over like the Sika stuff at the moment or anything like that. I want to go because that story. What you guys were telling me about the Philippines with the volcano going off and you meeting Jules, can you guys, and then we'll talk about Jules. You've done some amazing things too, and it's just great to hear. But how did you guys meet?
You want to tell that story? How you stalked me?
Yeah, I basically did. I mean, so I was I was stationed in the Philippines, and I'd come back from the first Gulf War, or, you know, I'd gone over there, I'd come back. A lot more people on the base in Subic Bay, which was a huge base. But anyways, you know, it was small enough you kind of kept track of people. So anyways, I saw her, always in uniform, always with her hair up, always kind of intrigued of, you know, who she was, where she's from, who she worked with as far as unit-wise. And so I kind of pieced all that together through my intel network. But I didn't want to go and talk to her when she was with a lot of other people. So I was always trying to call her from the herd, you know?
Yeah.
And so anyways, one Saturday or Sunday morning, whatever, on the weekend, I just happened to walk in at 10 o'clock in the morning to eat breakfast. And she was there by herself, in an area of the galley by herself, let alone at a table by herself. And so I took the opportunity, kind of sat down, put my tray down, sat down before I ever said, could I sit here, kind of thing. And, you know, what we were talking about last night is, you know, neither of us was looking for a relationship. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe I was, because that's why I sat down to talk to her. But we essentially did everything we could during that, you know, hour and a half conversation, whatever it was, to give each person a reason to run the other direction, right? Just brutally honest, I would say, with each other about, you know, who we were and what we were looking for to get out of life. And, you know, just a really fairly in-depth conversation about, you know, I don't want kids either, and blah, 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 this and that. And I mean, it was very cordial, but it was very interesting in hindsight how I think it was based on a lot of, past, our past histories and relationships that, we weren't going to go through that again, so to speak. And because we weren't looking for
Get that
anything,
stuff
I
out of the
don't
way,
know
right?
if we had anything to lose.
I mean,
Anyways,
he knew if he asked if, or said, I'm not going to have kids. And I'm like, well, I tied my tune, so I'm not either, So, well, that one's out of the bag, so that's not going to make me run.
Yeah.
So.
Anyways, so just kind of jumping ahead. So, started seeing each other, had a great time, lots and lots of stuff to do, especially when you're overseas on a base. This is pre 9/11. I mean, this is 1989, something like that, 90. I don't know, somewhere in there. But
90, yeah.
But anyways, in a very short period of time, Mount Pinatubo on the island of Luzon in the Philippines erupted. So it was kind of like a Mount St. Helens type eruption with a lot of ash in the air. And within hours of that eruption, my time is probably off a little bit, a very large typhoon hit the southern Pacific and specifically the Philippines. And so this ash that would have fallen down very dry like fire ash or something like that, and certainly been an inconvenience, was now coupled with this torrential rain that made it like wet concrete. And so feet and feet of essentially heavy, dense, wet concrete was building up. And so while this was going on, and certainly the aftermath the next day, it leveled, for the most part, it leveled a good majority of the base we were on. Now, this was pre-cell phone, so, nothing could fly in because the runways were completely jacked. Matter of fact, there was a picture of, was it like a FedEx plane that had to land there?
It was
of the typhoon?
sitting on its tail.
And it was sitting on its tail because all the weight
style
on the
of
wings.
airplane doesn't
Really?
do that.
It's like a 737 sticking up like this with its tail.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I might even have that picture.
But it just destroyed the base. No ships could come in because the Navy ships, the Navy boats, even ours, we tried to get out into the bay, but the ash in the water got sucked into the impellers and clogged all the filters and stuff. So I mean, we were truly on our own. So I was stationed at a small dive locker at the time. I don't remember. It was probably 10, 12 guys, but we had a big generator. We had the only working hyperbaric chamber in the Southern Pacific. We had a huge 10,000-gallon training tank that we had filled with water because all the senior guys at this command were all Vietnam vets. They had lived through things like this before. So we were prepared, and we had the infrastructure, and we had a bunch of young gung-ho guys. So as that concrete fell from the sky, we were on the roofs shoveling it away, and so we actually weathered the storm literally very well. Next day, guy went and hot wired a bulldozer, pushed all the ash away, and made a big berm around. Basically made a compound for us. And then we started, kind of seeing what was going on. And for like a week, it was essentially every person for themselves. Like command infrastructure, military infrastructure, it really didn't exist, right?
Yep.
So I won't go into all the details because I don't want NCIS coming after me. But I'll just say that, I told her, I was like, hey, screw your unit. You don't even know where they are. They're certainly not going to be able to take care of you like we can. So I just pulled her into our unit. Our Master Chief was completely fine with that because, like I said, it was kind of like a Lord of the Flies kind of thing. And we lived that way for, 4 or 5 days, just completely self-sufficient. And then our boss showed up, 06. He showed up. He pulls up, a week later, haven't seen him, haven't heard him. And he looks at us, he gets out, he looks at us, we're out. We're shorts, no shirts, because it's beautiful weather now. We're playing volleyball in our new compound. We got steaks going, we're drinking beer, because there's nothing to do. And he turns around, he says, you guys stay right here, I'll be right back. And he brought his wife back an hour later, and he said, could you please feed her? So anyways, my point to this is, in a very, very early on in our relationship, we lived through this natural disaster and all this real life drama.
Yep.
that then continued to play out. I was eventually evacuated off the back of a ship to the Philippines. She got back to the States, but 5 months later we were married, and it'll be 33 years in September. And in between there, there's been, lots of military trips and deployments and, her moving over to the Air Force and, the whole thing. But it was always grounded on that foundation of, kind of brutal honesty or truth. Yeah. So it's been cool, but I think that helped. It was either going to make or break the relationship.
And that is amazing. I mean, what I love about that is you're not. I mean, you go into the hardships like within quick. I mean, you're learning about each other, how you're going to handle the situations, terrible situations, and do I want to be with this guy? Is he going to panic, or you know what I mean? It's just one of those funny things that is like, whoa. What did you think about that?
All I can remember truly is, you just do what you got to do, and I was totally separated from my unit, and like a free agent.
Yeah.
So we just did what we had to do.
Yeah.
It was one of those stark realizations that, you're 7,000 miles away from what you're used to, emergency services and
yeah.
Giddy up.
That's right. That is amazing. It amazes me to go into to have something like a natural disaster, two natural disasters with typhoons and
earthquakes too. No, it's not. It was shaking.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, the earthquakes. We had 3 things going on, and it's like, whoa, ride that one out. They were those weird ones, or they shook. It was so, wow, disruptive.
Yeah. So then you guys came back to the States then after that?
Yeah, well, I came back first.
I got to evacuate. I was in a unit that we got to dig the base out because the lease had run out with the Americans and the Filipinos.
Really?
Yeah. So
on the Air Force base, which was destroyed.
Subic had run out. So we had to dig the base out before we could give it back to him. We had to clean it up. So I'm, watching him go away and evacuate and.
So I went back down to Panama City for my next kind of advanced dive school, and eventually she got back to the States. She drove out. I had a condo on the beach in Panama City for 3 months. So, we hung out. That's where we eventually got married. We told that story about, we were going to get married just of the peace with some friends of mine in a park. And we show up on a Saturday, and it's a car show. So, and again, nobody can communicate because, God only knows how we did anything without cell phones back in the day. But anyways, worked through all that and then moved up to Virginia Beach. So, yeah.
The thing that I appreciate about you two is like the living the life and like, we talked about this last night, like some of the things you manifested in some ways that you wanted to go do things and I really don't know if I have so many directions I want to go, but you asked me about retirement last night.
Yeah.
And I'm laying in bed last night because you got that in my head, and I'm thinking, we're both going to be 56, and I don't think anybody will ever retire. I mean, I know me and you won't retire. I know we want to keep on fulfilling our lives and making things happen, and I just know that I want to keep on climbing mountains and hanging out with Cindy. Or if she wants to stay hanging out with me. But I look at you guys and it just put a different sense of thought in my system because I never ever really thought about retirement. What does John Barklow do 20 years from now?
Yeah, well, I tell you why it was probably so. The reason it's a topic of conversation, or at least a thought in our heads, is Jules and I are both retired from the military. which means, you know, you go in, you know you can only spend X amount of time, you know, either number of years or age or, you know, there's lots of different things there. And I think it's a horrible term. I really would prefer that the military stop using that, because the vast majority of people can't stop working, which I think is the first image or idea people get in their head about retirement, right? But, you know, we kind of had to put that part of our lives, as, you know, behind. And I can't speak for her, but for me, it hasn't been the easiest thing, and we can never put it fully behind. But that's a part of our life that we did, and we retired from that, but we didn't retire from life.
No.
You know, and so when I think to the future of, you know, how long am I going to stay in my current job? I've got this business I started, you know, what else do I want to do? What makes me happy? What makes me fulfilled? And, you know, I think there's different phases of our life. And it's like, I feel, you know, you talked about last night, I think you said something about being on a journey, or, you know, you think you're on a journey. Well, I am very much, at least for me in my entire life, I'll tie this back to your original comment, but on a journey, right? Or I like to talk about a trajectory of my life, being very honest about who you are, what you want, essentially unapologetic about it. And if you know that essential framework, you don't have to have all the details. You just have to know a general direction. I did a presentation where I said the cardinal direction, north, south, east, west, just kind of like your land navigating. And if you don't know that, then you're lost, right? But having that trajectory, and so I always know when I'm coming up on a kind of a crossroads. Sometimes it could be a fork in the road. Doesn't have to be a hard left or right, but like, you're on this journey, and then you come to these milestones in your life, and it's like, okay, now's the time to make, you know, choose door A or B. And I think the more you are honest with yourself, the easier that is to, you know, take the door A or B. So, you know, her and I, going back to the original conversation that we both had, we've been very honest about who we are, what we want. And even though we didn't have the details, we've been fairly prescriptive about it. So as an example, you know, I told you, we didn't even own a home till I was 40, right? I was at the end of my military career. And people are like, oh, well, that's crazy. It's like, is it? We went and had all these adventures. We rented one-bedroom apartments. We socked money away for 20-some years, right? And then when it was time because we didn't want to be tied down to that. We wanted to be able to take those jobs and take those deployments and take those, you know, trips on our own when we wanted to. And so it's, you know, yeah, you have to have luck and things like that, but you also have to be fairly prescriptive and conscientious up front about what you want. And so retirement, I'm like, I don't really see myself just like, for a long time anyways, getting up, having coffee with nothing to do. Like, I would go crazy. I drive her crazy. She'd drive me crazy, right? So it's like, what do you do? And I think that's where this podcast and what you're doing, what I'm trying to do, we talked about this yesterday, giving back. Like, I don't consider that retirement. Like, you are actively doing something that is benefiting society.
Well, and I hope so. Because I just feel that this is my calling. I just felt like there was a time we've talked about that. I feel like this is my purpose. Like,
and what a great thing! You know how many people go through life and never even once get that idea in their head? Yeah,
because I look at you giving your knowledge of saving people. Like, we talked yesterday about and me stabbing my leg in your in your triage kit from Uncharted and stuff. How I thought, what would John Barklow do here? First of all, he would have said, "You're a dumbass," probably to me, or something like that.
I'd have just given you a hard time.
Yeah,
that's a start.
Because like today we were waiting because I had to hurry. I was trying to make sure this was perfect so we didn't die, Rusty. My God, with this podcast here. But when I met you in Cherry Peak in person, you know, you always hear about Jules, but you don't see Jules.
That's a common theme on our
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
And is Jules your real name?
No,
I mean,
it's Julia.
Julia. See, my mom's name was Dot, and it was never Dorothy. It was Dot. So that's why I'm saying,
Did people just take the leap and call her Dorothy?
well, my cousins did. and,
Just to make her mad?
And it's one of those things, like my mom said, never call me Ma. You shouldn't have ever done that, because I call her Ma every once in a while just to rattle her. But no, I just see the giving and the knowledge that you give to help people freely. When I first met you, and you were so giving of knowledge to me of what layers to wear, what you should be doing here and there, and I don't know what I and to be honest, I didn't know who you were. You know what I mean?
That's fine.
No,
Probably back then nobody did.
And ears, just like I said, and it's just it was so awesome to be able to, because I prefer that. I don't get. I hope I don't get overwhelmed by knowing or jealous or whatever. I don't know what it is, but it was just so nice to have. You didn't tell me what to wear. You explained why you should wear it.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Absolutely
And
why? Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're in this situation, this is what you want to do. And if you're a hot or a cold person, because I probably am more of a colder person. That's just me. But to learn that stuff, and then we start. Where I'm going with this is the giving part of knowledge, and do you see yourself for a long time giving knowledge?
Yeah.
He's happiest doing that.
Yeah,
I
there's a
mean,
few things
the years
there,
I've
so-
known him, absolutely.
Not a lot of people really know who I am.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about this.
Yeah.
Like my circle's pretty tight, and even
Yep.
those people don't know it. I mean, she's the only one that really knows, rightly so.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. She's still around. But, but you know, I when I was a young kid growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, you know, I always longed for adventure, and you know, it was the ocean, it was the mountains, and you know, I chose the ocean to start, and then eventually got into the mountains, but. You know, I enjoyed those times because it was innocent and, you know, you didn't know what you were doing and you screwed up and it was just okay. But I always wanted to be that person who was like self-sufficient and, you know, that mountain man or whatever, you know, it was at the time. And so I've been super, super fortunate in my life, again, having at least some trajectory to, I think, achieve that, right? Or a lot of people would look at me like that. I mean, I still have more to learn, but in the grand scheme of things, like I have become one of those people. I have to accept that. Like people come to me for that knowledge. And so I realized I was very selfish if I didn't, after I left the military, continue to give that to something. And so the hunting community is a community I enjoy. It's, you know, I'm involved in it professionally. I'm involved in it personally. And so I was like, well, I'm really selfish if I don't do this. And, you know, I always approach it. It's like, hey, here's the information based on a lot of years of experience. If you like it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. But I was very used to teaching professionals, right?
Mm-hmm.
People that I may only get a month, a week, a day, an hour, 5 minutes with, and instill something that could save their life, right?
Yep.
And I've had guys over the years say, hey, man, like that thing, that course, that comment, like saved my life in this jam, right? And there were a lot of guys, you know, that didn't come back, but there are a lot of guys that did. And so it's like, well, geez, there's worse things to be doing in life. I actually think at this point, it's my calling, right? So yeah, I work for Sitka and I think I do really well there and I made them a lot of money, but that's not what fulfills me. What fulfills me is seeing people take the gear we make and like go create their own dreams, right? Be able to weather the storm, live, survive, thrive, all those things. And so, you know, very long-winded answer is always, but I honestly see myself, I don't know how other people will perceive me, but I honestly see this is the next chapter of my life to take me to the foreseeable, like I can't see the horizon of where this ends right now.
And that's ageless. You know, what you're
In some
pursuing,
regard,
it's ageless.
like I don't know if anybody wants to listen to an 80-year-old man tell war stories, but you know,
They do.
They do. Yeah.
But I'll be there to do it if they want to hear it, because I think that I'm continuing to learn as well. You know, and I think when I saw you and your Don't Die Rusty, I'm like, oh my God, like that's so spot on, because it just talks about a lifestyle, a persona, an attitude, a way of life that like more people need to engage in. And you've always been that way. Like you've always been the Don't Die Rusty guy. Nobody knew it to include you. You know.
Well,
I have a little story.
you tell me.
Uh-oh.
Well, because you were saying how when you met John, you started asking him, and you were a one-on-one.
Yes.
Without even, any question. He wasn't looking around and trying to give you an answer and moving on.
No.
Well, we're at the grocery store one time. You remember this, right? And John, so I think I had my phone, it's got my stuff in it, and I paid, and then John was behind, next to me. And as we're starting to leave the line, this guy comes up to me and says, "Is that John Barklow?" And I'm like, as a matter of fact, he says, "Can I talk to him?" So I'm like,
Talk to me.
I know, John. This guy would like to have a conversation. So John like they were old buddies, and he had to have a conversation about his recent hunt. But he hunted like John. He didn't have a good partner, so he did so much hunting solo.
Yeah.
And so they had this.
Yeah, he was an ex-Army guy,
Yep.
I think, too.
Yep.
He was still going overseas.
But he was talking about, dude, he gave him a story, and he's like, what you are putting out there saved my life. So,
Who knows? Like with that stab, if it would have been worse, it went through my mountain pant, and then it went through my my underlayers, but who knows if it would have been deeper? I would have had to do more stuff that he taught me in classes.
Right.
That class you taught. How would I know? And here's the deal. And I'm not trying to give you a big head or anything, but you're leaving a legacy.
I actually have a very small head for my body size. Go ahead.
But you're leaving a legacy that very few people will have. And, like, you're the most – it doesn't matter where you are. It's John Barklow is talked about with respect. And –
yeah, I appreciate that.
you are a legacy you're leaving a legacy that very few people can compare to right at this moment, because you are so helpful with everybody. There can be people with knowledge, and then they don't want to share it.
Yeah, right.
And
what is that?
And you're leaving the world in a better place than that. That's I can only hope to do something good with Don't Die Rusty in that manner, because I see that, and then I come and see you allowed me to come and stay at your house, and I to know us better too.
Oh, absolutely.
But I look at that and I see like your adventure. You talk about the clothing that you've created, and we were talking about mountain men with John Coulter, yesterday about running. That just is amazing to me, because, like I said, I was a big John Coulter fan, but I wouldn't have wanted to wear the skins that they had to wear. But you've created clothing that, growing older, this is what I laugh about people, and this isn't, I laugh about people saying they can wear jeans, and they can wear cotton, and they can go do this, and they can do that. And I say to some people that have had arguments with me, or discussions, we'll just say, that I am getting older, and me packing around in Carhartts to try to stay warm and falling in and getting wet. If you're taking I think I told you before, I did tell you at Salt Lake, my 80-year-old dad had tag this year in South Dakota, and he's a little smaller than me, but I was letting him wear my Sitka, and I gave him I gave him the Aerolite, and he said, and then I had him dressed in a few more arrows, but he said, "This isn't going to keep me warm." and by the time we got to
He was peeling off.
He was
yeah.
peeling off. And what I'm saying about that is I want to be doing this till I die.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps me do what I want to do till I die. Is people don't realize it's like you can shoot a 1970 compound bow forever. You can shoot a 2024 compound bow, and it is totally different. It's going to make the draw cycles are. You can draw 70 pounds now, and it feels like you're not even pulling 70 pounds. Yeah. What I'm going with that is that, so you're making a mark, and you're helping people live a life of adventure that some people will never ever get to see.
You know what I think? It was one of your first quotes on the website is, I want to make clothing for people so they decide when they leave the mountains. Not Mother Nature, not the mountain. I want them to be able to stay out as long as they want to. I mean, wasn't that one of the first quotes that was on the website?
Yeah, leave the mountains on your terms, not Mother Nature's.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we were talking about Stoics last night, and I probably repeat this in a few of my episodes I've done, but Seneca said that every second that passes is owned by death. And
that's not,
we can never get it back.
You can't get around that.
And there is no rewind in life. You can't go back and wish you would have if you should do it. And when I want death to come screaming, they're going to have to do whatever they can to take me away because I want to live every second. And when I can be out there a little bit longer and a little bit
warmer,
farther,
and
warmer, I know that I have something with me that, and plus the knowledge that you've given me, I can do a few more things that are different that will help me be a better person, better hunter. And like I said, you're giving us knowledge. And I thank you for that.
Well, you know what? I think he'll say it too. The best thing, COVID was actually the best thing that happened to John Barklow. He just realized he needed to do something, and it occurs to him that he needs to share his information. So he's out there making those Instagram.
I am, what did I tell you? An unwilling participant in social media.
Yeah. So it stoked that flame.
Well, whatever mistake you made on the podcast the other day pales in comparison to every mistake I've made in the last 3 years.
But you know what? On top of that, too, how many posts on Instagram or whatever do you ever find no bad comments, no criticism? You can look through all of John's posts. Everybody loves it. And if they have a question, they pose it as a question, not a criticism. It's like, well, why didn't you tell us this? Everything is positive. And I dare you to find any other post on Instagram that's like that.
And that's don't die rusty. I'm just kidding. Because that's where I'm trying to go with this. It's like you get those computer trolls, but you're correct there. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to delve off of John Barklow for a minute, and I'm going to talk about Jules Barklow. Last night, we went out for supper. I learned a little bit about you, and you have as much knowledge as John about you've been in so many different things in your life. So tell me a little bit about Jules.
See, that's the thing.
What makes Jules tick?
Where do I start? I mean, one of the reasons I tied my tubes at 25, I knew that there was so much in this life that I wanted to try and do that having a child wasn't one of those. I mean, I had to stop and raise them, and then, of course, they never go away, right? People say when they're 18, they're gone. Oh, no. They come back with legal problems after 18. So, I watched all my friends, and I'm like, I can't take that out on a child. That's not fair to them. And so I chose to, and I had to sign a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
But it was not in the cards for me. I had so much that I wanted to try.
Well, going to, because to me it's hilarious if you just do a quick rundown, high level of the jobs you've had. People would be shocked.
I'll leave some out. I would.
Well,
if
it doesn't
start.
matter. I mean, do you want me to start? You need.
My first job was at Taco Bell for $1 an hour, right?
Really?
Yeah, and I was 15, so I had to have a work permit. I mean, I wanted my own money, damn it. I wanted to buy, I had a car. I wanted to buy my own gas, my own clothes. And I was an only child, too. My dad was an only child. So he raised me very independent, to my mom's chagrin. But then I moved on to another place. It was it was Yaws. It's a well-known name in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's still around, but it was a family-owned business, and he paid well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, going from $1 an hour to I think it was like $4 or something, right? So,
But let me. I'm going to help her out here,
Okay.
right? Because this is
I know
kind of new to her.
No, I understand.
But let me help you out. So I just talked to you about how we as a couple
Yep.
are very prescriptive and conscientious about how we've lived our life. Which for the most part, since I grew up. And I don't want to speak for her from a toddler, but like I've always wanted to seek adventure.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I've wanted. So we've crafted our lives that way. So prior to meeting her, we talked yesterday about her. She's an amazing skier. Right?
Yeah.
So she taught me to ski.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I've learned from her, good or bad, right? But one of the things I thought was so cool about her is that she was the same way. So for 10 years, she worked road construction so that she could collect unemployment and go on what she called Uncle Sam's
ski team.
Right?
Ah.
She lived in Tahoe. She lived in Aspen, right? She did in Eastern Oregon. Like she did all these things because she knew what she wanted. She was seeking adventure, and she crafted her life on purpose to achieve that, right? And so then the military was just another aspect of that. Her and I connecting was just taking that same direction independently and kind of merging it together, right?
Should use your word, trajectory.
Yeah. So, she's worked for UPS multiple times, and you need to tell that story of how you quit the last time. She's worked for FedEx. She's worked for the Postal Service. She's been a brakeman conductor on the Union Pacific Railroad. She's pulled chain for Boise Cascade, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's lived in New Zealand, house sitting, all those things I just talked about. She's lived in Hawaii. Like, this is prior to me ever meeting her. Like, I've been married to her almost 33 years, and there's still something out there I probably still haven't heard about that she's, not holding out on me about, but just randomly didn't know about. So, tell them about the one time up in Alaska.
I'm driving UPS. So I'd driven for UPS in Oregon, and of course I moved away from Oregon, and then we're on Kodiak, and our UPS delivery driver, he's like, I think we said things because I'd say, I used to drive in Oregon, and so he knew that.
Yeah.
And he came to my door to deliver one day, and he's like, Jules, Patty got injured. We need a driver. And I'm like, well, have your boss call me. Don't you know, he called me. I had an appointment with the medical guy. They cleared me. I was driving that afternoon.
Really?
Well, it's Kodiak.
Well, yeah.
It's not L.A.
But it's not like, I'd driven that boxcar. I mean, it was
and she
get
had
back in the saddle.
She had a commercial driver's license.
Yeah.
So this was pretty amazing.
No, but
tell them
how you quit.
Okay, so
that's not amazing. How you quit is the coolest story
I was
ever
laying
in the
the
history
groundwork.
of quitting a job.
I mean, they saw my value. I mean,
Yeah.
they could just take me right now. But the problem was I was on air crew with the Air Force. So my unit was down in California. So to keep my currency, I would fly with the Coast Guard out to Attu and Shimia, right?
Like way out the Aleutian
the very
chain.
end of the Aleutian chain. And my boss, we were managed from Anchorage, and we were living on Kodiak, and he tried to tell me one time that I couldn't do that. I had to work.
The UPS?
Yes,
guy?
told me that. And I'm like, I need to introduce you to the ESGR, Employer Supportive Guard and Reserve. And I was actually an officer. There was a guy on Kodiak. He was like
an
president.
officer of the ESGR.
An officer of the ESGR. And I was like his sidekick. He was kind of grooming me to take his job. And I said, I need to introduce you to this guy because you need to have him come to Jesus. You can't tell me I cannot do my military duty. Well, we'll see about that. And I said, okay, here's the deal. My last day is Friday. And this was like Wednesday, I think, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, no, I need you to tell. I said, my last day is Friday.
So she tells me this,
Yeah.
right, on like Wednesday.
So the boss comes over. He's there Thursday, and the way the desk was, it was upstairs. It was the stupidest thing because you had to bring boxes empty. Anyway,
Yeah.
so he's working at the desk, and the door's over here, and I came in after my last day, and I put on my workout gear under my uniform.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was not going to be indecent. I
Jog
had a
bra, pair of
jog bra,
shorts.
and in order to just cut the cord right then and there, I just stripped right there in the office.
She stripped in front of everyone her UPS uniform off to her jog bra and shorts underneath. Could you imagine the look? So she
Well, he didn't see me. He was working, but he could hear me. And then I said, so here's my uniform. Do not put rehire on the form, checkout form, whatever.
Yeah.
And he turns around. He's like, don't call me.
So I'm hanging out in our apartment, and she comes walking in wearing a jog bra and shorts, and I'm like, I'm probably having a drink, and I'm like, so it looks like you quit.
That is funny.
On my terms,
that's got to be a story that guy's.
Oh,
definitely.
Roy, he to this day goes, Jules, I tell that story. I'm sure it's grown.
Yeah.
But the other, just to kind of dote on her a little bit, but the other cool thing is, Rick, so again, met her in the Philippines. She was in a cargo handling battalion, kind of like a
CB.
CB light.
Yeah,
kind of
CB
thing.
light.
And so then eventually we were talking about it last night because but in Virginia Beach, she ended up switching over to the Air Force. So eventually she gets a job. This is just one of, many cool stories, but she becomes a combat photographer for the Air Force. So what does that mean? I'll let her tell some stories. What does that mean? It's like, well, you become air crew. She mentioned that. So the Air Force is very good about how they train their people, especially when it comes around to the airplanes. And so she has to go through, all these different survival schools, to include Arctic Survival School and Water Survival School and all this kind of stuff.
Combat survival, underwater survival.
All this crazy
They
stuff.
wouldn't let me go to jump school, though.
And because she's air crew and everything, so she's having all these great adventures, and then, going to Ecuador and all these places to like shoot photos and flying in F-16s and, I mean, all this stuff that, to her, she just
job.
like, this is my job. But I'm like,
Who
and
gets
she's
that?
taking, so she's got amazing, photos.
Oh.
But she did that. How long did you do that?
18 years.
Really?
And she, she doesn't even talk about it. Like most people don't even know that.
No, being
It
here.
didn't come up last night.
Nope,
did it?
she's the most humble person. I knew kind of some story. That you were a photographer.
Yeah, because we were talking about the tripod.
Exactly.
So
So what was it like being a photographer?
for the Air Force?
For the Air Force.
Combat survival. Oh, my God, it was so much fun. I just got to go. And the nice thing about being a combat photographer is I'm in a combat unit, but we don't deploy as a whole unit. We don't have the big workup and go with, no. The Pentagon would call and say, hey, we need boots on the ground, we need pictures of this, we need this or that. And they would send either me as a still photographer and a videographer. And we'd literally hop and pop. Just get on whatever we could get there. And I had an MR set. I can't explain the acronym, but it's a portable satellite. And so I had a digital camera, so I'd take the pictures that they wanted, plug it in, beam it back to the Pentagon, find a plane and come home. So it was, just so easy and fun and everything. It was always different.
So tell them two stories. I think that your Arctic survival up in Fairbanks in winter was like no joke. So that's a cool story. And I also think it's an interesting adventure of your trip to Mongolia.
Oh, don't tell me you went to Mongolia.
I did.
She did.
Oh, that's one place I would love to go to.
Well, don't go with the Army.
All right.
Our Army. Yeah.
Yeah, our Army.
Yeah.
Oh, which one do I start with?
Well, start with Mongolia and just like the food and the travel, and there's just so much to that.
Oh my God. there's just it's so rushing in. I'm not sure really where to start.
Well, imagine, if you will, you deploy over there. Now, the Air Force is oftentimes attached to the Army, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this case,
Well, it's the Army Air Corps.
I believe it was.
Yeah.
And so, they're eating in the Mongolian military chow halls.
No, really.
So, listen, you go through a U.S. military chow hall nowadays, it's pretty damn good, right? And back in the day, it wasn't bad, but it was, it could be unique depending on where you were. She's going through the chow hall, kind of dependent at this point on them to feed her, and it's fermented mare's milk, mutton 3 times a day, which she doesn't like either of those, right?
It's mutton. It was,
and
but we were there. I was deployed with
and
Hawaiians that
like,
loved it.
And it's not like U.S. Army mutton.
It's
Mongolian
mutton.
mutton, right? And
Mare's
so,
milk, yeah, with hot flies in it.
Because I've heard about the fermented mare's milk and the mutton, and it's just. But it's one of those places I've always wanted to go. Genghis Khan, see some. Marco Polo's there.
Yeah.
That.
Did you do some crazy cross country drives to certain places?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there's no real roads,
No.
and even getting to the base, the bus driver got lost. So we're running around the Mongolian desert, trying to find. Yeah.
So did you fly into Ulaanbaatar? Is it
Yes,
Ulaanbaatar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell me
Well,
about.
and the food. The interesting part too is the U.S. did bring in some food. They we brought it, and then they kept supplying it. But here's the deal. So at every meal, we had the mutton and all that other stuff, but it was just chicken parts, and it was only wings.
It was just chicken parts.
Really?
Well, there's supposed to be thighs and all. So that stuff was going somewhere. So, and you can't fault these people for, trying to feed themselves and whatnot.
No.
But, being around those little ponies that they have.
Yep. Because I see like the wrestling, they have their big festival and stuff. That's just one place I wanted to go, and it was just one of those interesting things. But
well, when you land too in Ulaanbaatar, it's like there's cranes everywhere, but the closer you get to them, they are rusted. It's when the Russians were there, rusty. And they were going to build and then stopped.
Yeah.
And so, the landscape downtown and just the countryside is littered with cranes that are just non-functioning.
That is interesting.
Who knew,
it's
right?
just interesting that you hear about things like that. They just stopped.
Yeah.
And then and nothing going on.
Yeah.
So tell me about the Arctic.
Yeah. Tell them about Arctic survival, because.
Well, true to the nature of Alaska, it was minus 50. So
outside of Fairbanks, right?
Yeah. And so you have to start with a class, and they warn you, it's like, do not take your gloves off. Because out there, you take it off for 2 seconds, you're going to get frostbite, and you're going to put everybody in jeopardy, right? So we started off with, I'll say, we started off with like 20 people, and we dwindled down to maybe 12 because people kept pulling their gloves off to do stuff. And they're like, you're out. I mean, they just grab them, take them, pull them.
Really?
So you got to build shelter, and they give you a parachute.
The idea is, as aircrew, it's like the scenario would be the plane crashes, you jump out, etc. You've got your survival kit on you, maybe a parachute kind of thing, a couple people around you from the crew.
Yeah.
So try and make a snowball out of minus 50 snow. It won't do it.
No.
So you get creative. And so I'm looking for trees and breaking boughs, and I've got my parachute over a tree, and then I put boughs on it and start putting the snow, and so the boughs hold it there. Mm-hmm. And then they come and they check on you with your progress, and then they put what's that header? The piece of log at your entryway. They tell you to get in there, and then they put it on. So you're in there overnight. And I think that's the longest day of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
So did you do anything? What'd you do to stay warm?
I just kept moving. Just moving around, just tapping, sitting, and then doing my feet.
Yeah.
and then under here. Yeah, it was a long night. But one of the best things I learned is this. It wasn't combat survival, so we weren't resisting.
Yeah.
But and there were people in my class that were like still resisting, and it made the instructors so mad. They're like, "Stop resisting me!" But we had those 3-pound coffee cans to boil water, so we built a fire, and I mean, it's a stark reality. You can burn water.
You can burn snow.
Well, but it's burning water, because if you don't put water first in there and let it melt, and then put snow on top of it, it's gonna burn the snow. So our water tasted like, our oatmeal, our hot chocolate, everything tasted burnt, because the guy that was in charge, he's just like filling this can full of snow. I'm thinking, I mean, I didn't even know this from a survival standpoint, but I'm thinking that's going to make it like one stick. So you need to have some water in there first. So.
And it was tough for me, especially the Arctic survival, but it was really tough for me to, see her go on some of these.
He made me a kit though.
Trips, or, go to these survival schools, because, that was my expertise, right? Yeah. But I was in special operations, so we had whatever we wanted. We could use whatever we wanted. I mean, we'd limit the students on occasion, but like we had the best of everything, right? I think to include knowledge as well. And then I'm kind of sending her off to the wolves, so to speak. Like not that I have anything against the Air Force, but the reality was they weren't operating at the same level we were with the same gear. And so, I made her these kits, but then at the end of the day, she had to go do it herself. Like -50 is -50. No, like that is literally no joke. Fermented mare's milk is also no joke. So, it's not like she had a lot of body.
And it's an insult. If you don't, they hand it to you, you better drink it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
But go take a step back and just like, talk a little, because to me it's intriguing.
Yeah.
I kind of like, I fall in love again, Rick, with my hippie chick when she starts talking about, 10 years of road construction so she could ski all winter. I mean, tell them about the first time you went to Big Sky.
Well, Big Sky had just opened.
Yeah.
I mean, coming from Oregon, we would take a ski trip and we'd stop, Sun Valley. And since Big Sky had just opened, we thought, well, we'll just stop by there. Well, it was that one chair, that one little double chair right by the Huntley. Where I'm talking? That was the only chair. That was the chair that they had when they started. And it had Viz Queen over the little tower.
Really?
And it was $5.
Really? Holy moly.
So, and it was deep. It was deep.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And we came to Bridger. It was so deep, it was to my waist. I had my snorkel in my ski bag, and people have always made fun of me. But I'm the one still skiing. Because, the snow's coming up. Yeah. But I got a snorkel, so I'm still skiing, and they're stopping and choking. And
And, so she taught me to ski, as I mentioned. And I started on the East Coast, which is, no offense to the East Coast, but if I never see it again, I'm totally fine. Not a great ski destination area unless you go way up into the New England area. So, but she's used to what she just described, and so she was gracious enough to kind of teach me. We get out west, then we really start to get into the Sierras and ski and do a lot of great trips there. We did this remote trip to, flew into a glacier in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, and spent
Ruth Glacier.
a week or so there doing some ski mountaineering stuff.
The Sheldon
down Sheldon Amphitheater.
Yeah.
So now we're up in Alaska. I'm literally working off skis. I'm essentially guiding, if you will, professionally as a military instructor, and so I think I'm pretty good. Like I'm pretty hot shit. All you have to do is ask me. Right? And compared to everybody else around me, I was, but it's a sliding scale. So I knew the conditions were good. I'd just come out of a trip, and so I was like, hey, let's go up, and I always wanted to ski this big chute, and I think the conditions would be pretty good, and I know the avalanche conditions are pretty low and this and that, and so I'm I just fall into my old ways.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm guiding her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, we're going to do this thing. We're going to ski down to, we're just doing all the safety protocol. We're going to ski down together. We're going to get to the top of this thing. Like if you fall there, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to ski first and I'm going to ski halfway. And then I'm going to hit that rock and then I'll wave you down and then you come and then you stand beside, and then I had the whole thing briefed out.
Scripted.
Like textbook guiding,
Yep.
So anyways, we get to the top of this big chute. It looks pretty awesome. It's really steep. Conditions aren't as good as I thought. And so I hack my way down. Like I did a pretty good job for backcountry skiing.
Yeah.
And I hack my way down, and blah, 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 blah. And I get halfway and I do exactly what I said. And I get behind this big rock. And I'm like, my arm is coming up to like, because she probably can't hear me, to like wave her down.
Yeah.
And she's already dropping in.
Really?
And she doesn't just drop in and hack her way down. She drops in and like just smokes this thing. Like she's a gorgeous, like elegant skier, right?
Yeah.
And she, like what I just hacked my way down and hoped I didn't fall, she's like just crushing it with elegant turns, blah, 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 comes right by me, ices me with the tails of her skis and just keeps going all the way to the bottom. Oh. And I was like, once again, she put me in my place.
That's a pretty cool wife.
I thought so. I was like, yeah.
Well, it's one of the things I taught him early on is, there's no friends on powder day. So
I don't have kids.
We don't either.
Those are the things that I've always said about that's how I lived. I mean, I lived as cheap as possible because I want to go on adventures.
You said you want to live for adventures.
And
save your money for that.
Because here's the deal. In the end, the only thing you're taking with you is your memories.
Yeah.
And here's one thing I thought about is if I'm in that old folks home, which I hope I'm never in the old folks home, but you wonder what those people are. You see those people in the corner just sitting there, and I was hoping that if I ever got to that point, that those memories are either in my head,
I know,
or like I said, I would probably never get to that point.
They're just marking time, waiting for the Grim Reaper.
That ain't going to happen to me, like I said.
We're going to go out and freeze to death or something.
No, well, I told you I wanted to go get ate by a bear and pooped out in the woods, or birds or whatever, spread out. Be that piece of crap people think I am maybe some days, I don't know. But no, it's just those good, it's about the living the good life. And like, I'm not kidding you. I was distressed last night trying to figure this thing out, that my problem. And then I thought I had it figured out, but I didn't want to wake anybody up this morning. But when I came down here and I look out and the sun's coming up and you see the glows off the top of the mountains and you just look, and if people would slow down, and I'm talking about myself too right now, if I sometimes I just have to tell myself slow down, and you look out at what I'm looking at here, and I'm going, life isn't so bad, because even if I wouldn't have got it working again, we had those conversations. You guys got to know who I am.
Which you can never take those conversations away.
No. And
all that shared information.
It might be not shared to the Rusty Nation, but it was shared with me. And those are things that I truly appreciate, because we were talking last night about those close that you have on maybe one hand, those tight knit group of people. You have that outskirts of people, but you just start realizing how important people are in your lives, that will come and take the time to be with you and or help you make some memories. It's interesting. It's interesting because it's where was I? I can't remember where I was. It was anyway. The memories that we're making now, like, you'll come into my life like certain people come into your life just maybe to change your direction, and then they pop back out. And then some people come into your life and they'll stay there for, we'll say 5 or 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have those lifelong people that you'll never, they're just always there. And it's funny how you don't know who those people are at certain times. And sometimes we try to, that one that's supposed to pop in or pop out, sometimes we don't know that at the time, and we try to maybe keep them there longer than they should be. And I've learned in the last 15 years probably, because then I started thinking outside myself. Not because some days I was worried about who I was portraying myself as. And now well, you were talking about jumping out of a van in a green suit. I really don't care who I am anymore. But what I'm saying is now I start realizing who the good people are. And I like to know that there are good people that want the best for you. I mean, we don't talk all the time, but whenever I see you, I talk to you. I mean, and now, like I said, I text Jules a little more, and she gives me some funny emojis on the way back. But I like where relationships grow, and when everybody knows in the relationship, we'll say that nobody's out for anything else but just to be a friend. That's what it's about.
But it is also part of the struggle is to weed out the users.
Well, it is to weed out the users, and I've done that myself, and I don't want anything. I want to just be a friend. I'm not. We were talking about this last night or yesterday too about jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, John knows people I may never know, and I mean I know their names, but I'm saying, but I'm not jealous of that. I feel lucky to know John
and share that story that he's got to share about those people.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, and I think in this world there's so many people that are jealous because we have something that they don't, and it's not that so I'm coming back into our adventures. All three of us didn't have kids. We chose that life.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say we were lucky, because we chose it.
Yeah. Right. It was planned for sure.
If you're lucky, that's a different story. But if you know that you want to live a life that you can have those adventures and fill your soul, not just in like the glass of water thing, I want to drink that stuff. I want to be nourished, and I want to feel something inside. And you guys would probably know this too. I mean, I like climbing a mountain or climbing a Crow Peak for me, and because it's just close, and I see nobody when I'm climbing in the dark. And when I try to time it perfectly, that the glow is just starting to come up from the sun, and
all those colors,
and it just something hits me, like I want to get those pictures, but it's like I'm seeing something that nobody else is going to see.
You know what? And a lot of times the camera will disappoint you.
It will.
What your eye sees is there forever, and trying to capture it on when I was, helping people with their photography and whatnot in my squadron, I'm like, sometimes you just take that damn thing away from your face and take it all in, because you may miss it. If you have that tunnel vision with that camera to your face, there's stuff going on that you're going to miss, and that could be the best shot of your career, and you missed it because you were so intent on that, looking in just one direction.
Exactly, and that's where I was going. Like, then I sit there, and I watch the sun come up, and I learn that I'm just me, and there's something bigger than me because it's showing me this. And I'm just saying that I'm just one person. And if we can all feel that, like, we have something to offer somebody good, then those feelings, it just
One at a time, Rick.
It
One
warms
at a
me.
time.
Yes, and that's where I feel truly lucky to be here, and I felt truly lucky to.
But it wasn't luck, though. I mean, honestly, it wasn't luck.
No, it wasn't.
This was planned. This was orchestrated. It wasn't luck. What's that saying you always say about luck?
I don't know.
I mean, you've got so many
I know. That's the
Barklowisms.
But I do. I mean, it's just the right place, right times for everything, and to be able, like I said, to be able to walk out here and into your living room here and see the mountains and to feel something inside me, and like I said, I was feeling terrible that we were going to have to do this again, but then it's one of those things that you don't want to leave because I'm having so many good conversations that it just things pop up, and I enjoy those things. So I do think that you guys are making this world a better place.
Trying.
And Don't Die Rusty is just.
This is no coincidence.
No, it isn't a coincidence. And I appreciate that fact. So we went into a lot of different places yesterday, and like you were talking about the equations of hunting buddies and stuff, but we kind of talked about shedding those friends that aren't right now.
Aren't aligned.
They're on the line. But so I'm going to let you have a Sunday morning-ish, afternoon-ish, and I'm just going to ask you the last question that I talked to you about yesterday.
Oh, jeez. I don't know what I said yesterday.
I don't either, but what's a good life to the Barklows?
See, but I said that's like asking me my favorite movie. It depends on everything. I mean, all the factors. It depends on what aspect of that attracts me.
Well, in when I say what's a good life, it isn't about what's the good life throughout your whole life, but what's a good life now?
I think for one, after learning to be a dog trainer and that being with a dog, they live in the moment. And it's really taught me a lot. It's just like stop, live in that moment. So, I mean, that's what I'm going to have to say.
To me, coming out of the military after so long, it was, and you hear this a lot from veterans, but it was finding that next mission, i.e. that purpose in life, and kind of what your part is to play in that. And so, she mentioned COVID, and what COVID did, I know a lot of people suffered. I just wasn't one of them. And what it did is it forced me into achieving a good work-life balance, actually the best, which wasn't hard because I never had any. It was all work for the most part. But that work-life balance, right? And then what that allowed me to do with that time is not only spend more time with her, but also kind of figure out what that purpose for me is, right? That next mission and what we've talked about it. I've said it a bunch of different ways, but that I was selfish with knowledge that was probably unique and grounded on 30 years of experience that maybe other people would find valuable, right? And I've been doing that for 3 years, and I got to tell you that I'm not sure who gets more out of it, the person receiving it or me giving it, because it gives me my purpose. I enjoy it. Like I said, I reserve the right to stop at any time because it's mine, right?
Yep.
But what it's allowed me to do is take that creativity I have at work, but ultimately turns into dollars, which doesn't give me the satisfaction.
Yeah.
What gives me the satisfaction is seeing people using the gear we create, having their own adventures, living their own life, finding their own success, and then me being able to dovetail on top of that and then providing my own perspective and uniqueness. and helping people, right? And so for me, having that purpose, having the ability, being lucky enough to have the ability to make other people's lives maybe better, like that's a pretty damn good thing to be able to do, right? And so
definitely.
right now, I got to tell you, like that's what gets me up in the morning. That's what keeps me, not that I've ever had a problem with motivation, but that's what keeps me going, is continuing to feed that and helping people. And when the random person comes up and asks, or somebody sends me a question or whatever, I get, hey, that really helped. It's like, that's all I need to hear.
Yep.
That's all I need to hear. I know that whatever I'm doing, my small part is helping.
Yep.
And to your point, if everybody can do that, then it lifts all boats, right? Rising tides lift all boats. And so, for me, if you'd asked me that 10 years ago, Rick, if you'd asked me that 20 years ago, I was a completely myopic, solely focused person on the military mission. And then when I got out of the military, it was all about what I called building my civilian resume. I mean, really, if you think about it, like I haven't taken a day off of work since I was like 13 or 14. Partly because it scares the hell out of me because I don't believe in gap years. But when I got out of the military, it was like, okay, now I have to build a civilian resume. Now I have to establish myself and establish my bona fides in this industry. And, COVID allowed me to, forced me to take that step back and have a little extra time and got me into this. And it's like, this is now, even though I can do the other, this is now my mission, my focus, my purpose for the foreseeable future, with no real horizon.
The cool part of it is, too, every person you talk to is unique. I mean, so this is never going to get old. You can keep, sharing, aspects of this and that and helping people. But each person that you talk to, they're all going to have their own individual instruction from you because that's
there's a phrase or a saying, and I won't get it right. I should know it off the top of my head, but it's something like you hear it and you understand, you do it, and then you learn, and then anyways, when you teach it, that's when true mastery comes. Yeah. Not leading up to that, but when you start to interact with people, when you start to have these conversations, when you start to, get all this diverse feedback, I think, like I said, I don't know who's getting more out of it. You may come to the same conclusion. You don't know. You might not know who's getting more out of it, your consumer or you, and I think that is what makes it fulfilling for everybody, and that cannot be faked.
Like, it's interesting that COVID changed my perspectives too, because I didn't know COVID was going to happen. I said I was going to do the Crow Peak 100 on social media. It made me do it, and we were at, and then at that time, TAC was only in a few places then, and Terry Peak was one that we could have it, and I'm walking around the festival there, the Mountain Fest part, and this guy walks up to me who I don't even know, and he says, "I've lost 30 pounds because of you."
Are you kidding me?
No, and he says, If you can climb mountains, I can climb mountains." And I think when you start talking about that, made me start realizing that you do make an impact on some people's lives that you don't even know, and you'll never know.
No.
And it's interesting how some places COVID
positive impact. Positive impact.
Well, it crushed a lot of others.
And it crushed a lot of others. But that's why I wanted to keep on doing things. I met a family from New York, because people were coming through and being in the wild, but every time I climbed. And then it's interesting because then I did 5 in one day. I did 5 peaks in one day in South Dakota. And then we did 6. And then this year it's going to be 7 in 24 hours.
Wow.
But I was climbing, when I was doing the 5, I was doing it by myself the one year. And I'm climbing down, and this guy says, "Are you that guy?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "I was just telling the boys," because he was climbing Crow Peak, because I was coming off, but I was stopping to take pictures with people. I said, "This is And you wouldn't believe that the smiles on people's faces that you just take time to say, hey.
Yeah,
You know,
let's capture this for you.
And it just makes, then I thought, what can you do to start helping people smile? And you help people go on adventures, and hopefully I help people smile and realize that there's more out there in life.
Yeah.
You know.
There's worse things to be doing than that.
There is. You know, I don't want to tear people down. I just don't.
We're very blessed that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, do you guys have any words of wisdom to end this show?
I don't know. I was thinking when we were talking about COVID how I'm sure it was a stark reality to a lot of people that, hey, this is how retirement's going to be. If that person's going to be home all the time, you know, and your kids, you know, I mean, you're stuck and you can't just give them money to go off to the mall. You know, you had to interact with your kids. So I just hope that was a positive thing, you know, to take away that, you know, this is how it's going to be. So if you're not going to get along that way, cut the cord now.
Yeah. So I think the foundations, I mean, we've talked about friends and foundations of relationships and then adventures and like, I have nothing against people that have kids. It's just that wasn't my lifestyle.
No, I didn't have time.
No.
Still don't.
And Cindy knows that I'm on the go. You know, I mean, she just does. And that's what fulfills me. And we all make our choices. So I'm going to say, well, this has been a great conversation, and I thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you.
For allowing us to come out here and stay with you guys. I hope so. And, like, it's reciprocal. You stay at our house anytime you want.
Well, you offered to, you know, come and shoot pheasants, so.
Well, here's the deal.
You
let me know, and we'll make it work. And both of you.
They need to be in season, though, right?
Well, yes.
It helps.
That really would help. But no, if in their wild, so I would love to have you guys come out and shoot a few pheasants. And then, like I said, I don't know if you want me to send you some text, the Rickisms about missing, because you'll hear them from me, you know what I mean? Like I said, something got my eye, the gun jammed. I stepped in a hole. I can go on and on. The sun was in my eyes.
Right. All those.
Because it's when you talk about pheasant hunting, we haven't done it for a few years, but Ben and a few of my friends would get together on a thank you hunt, because we have one guy, Troy, he reloads all of our shells for us. Does a heck of a job. And we'd have a thank you hunt, and I could, if a bird goes left, Rick's not hitting it. I do not know what it is. I just can't hit a doggone bird.
So every bird that flies in front of you goes left.
So you want to have the best shooter on my side, so they can at least probably hit it if you're, you know. And so that's when the Rickism started. Like, everybody can make fun of Rick, and it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, it's about the fun, it's about the shooting, and it's about the camaraderie too. And I would love to have you guys come out and see pheasants the way they should be. You know, these aren't pen raised. These are, you know, and it would be fun to get a few together and just come out and go do that.
Done.
And I would love it. And then I can see you probably, did you teach John how to shoot too? Skiing?
No. Shoot and ski. Try that one.
No, but I want to thank you. You guys come out pheasant hunting. You have a place to stay. We can cook up some pheasants. I do I know I keep on going here, but we were talking about cooking here the other day about cooking the pheasants, and then we were talking about turkey hunting last night. But I took a game warden and another guy turkey hunting. They were from Kentucky. I do not know, and Tennessee, and I don't know why you travel 7 states to hunt turkeys, but that's not me. If it was elk, I would go all 7. I understand this stuff, but they didn't want to fly the turkeys back. They want, you know, they had the feathers and stuff. But I have never ate. I was like Bubba Gump and turkeys, as like I had turkey this and turkey that and turkey this. But the one thing I did get was I chunk up the breast and then put it in Italian dressing for 6 to 8 hours, sometimes overnight, and then I put cream cheese on it, wrap it in bacon, and then put a little Cajun seasoning, and they had little brown sugar. I like the Cajun seasoning, not so much. The brown sugar starts to burn.
Nice.
And put it on the grill, and when the bacon's done,
breast bites.
it is just is good, isn't it? And so maybe we could do something with that with pheasants.
There's no
too.
maybe about it now that you've told me.
And that would be a meat thing, wouldn't it? And so it'd be good. You'd have
motivation.
Oh yeah. So let's
we need a few.
Let's come out and then we'll have some pheasants and maybe a grouse or a partridge will fly up too and see what else happens. And you get to see where I grew up.
I love it.
Awesome.
So all right. Well, thank you for joining us on this great conversation. And so, well, thank you, John and Jules Barklow, for taking time with me today. And we will. This has been a great conversation.
I mean, it's going to be a continuing conversation.
It will be a continuing conversation, and hopefully in many places and back out here and in South Dakota and
somewhere else in the world.
We'll see where it goes.
Let's go to Mongolia.
Oh, you I would save up right now and say let's just go, because that is one place I want to go. So thank you guys for letting me come out here and have a conversation with you.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
And thank you for letting me call you friend.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We'll talk to you later.